All right. I think we're live, Jeff.
Yeah, we are. Good morning, everyone. We'll give it, or good afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. We'll give it another minute or so to allow some additional folks to join, and we'll kick it off. We have a great agenda lined up, some awesome speakers, and really look forward to getting into today's content. So thanks for joining, and thanks for your patience. We'll give it maybe a minute or two, kick it off just past the top of the hour here. All right, so we're about a minute past the top of the hour, so I think we should get started. So welcome everyone to our Ignite Unpacked webinar. We're obviously entering a new area where AI really amplifies the human ingenuity, really empowering every organization to achieve more and transform the way that we work, create, and connect. As we begin, we want to just thank you for joining us, not just today, but throughout the year. This is our final Creospark webinar series, for the calendar year 2025. And we're super grateful for all your engagement, questions, and insights at every event. Today, we're going to explore Microsoft's latest innovations and how they're reshaping our digital workspaces. This session is more about technology. It's really about unlocking the new possibilities for your teams, your business, and your future. So let's dive in and discover how we can lead this in the new era of the AI-powered transformation. Before we get started, though, quick intros from our speakers. We'll start with Carolyn first. So Carolyn leads our technology analyst team here at Creospark and is one of the driving forces behind our Copilot readiness and SharePoint modernization work. She's a Copilot, she's Microsoft certified, across modern work, Power Platform, Dynamics 365, and brings a rare mix of strategic thinking and hands-on expertise, ultimately helping clients connect dots between tools like SharePoint, Viva, Copilot, really to create real clarity in your digital workspace. Also joining us today in the panel is Eric Overfield. Eric is a Microsoft Regional Director, a Microsoft MVP, a PNP team member, and a leading expert in Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and Azure architecture, strategy, and development. Chief Product Officer at Creospark, Eric has over 25 years experience with web design, best practices and techniques, and over 19 years experience in digital workplace architecture and implementation. My name is Jeff Schwam. I'm the host for today. I'm the Director of Sales here at Creospark, and I've been tech-focused in the IT sales role for the past 2 decades. So glad to have you all with us, and thank you again for our panelists for joining to us. Now, before we get started and really delve into some of the content that we've been seeing at Ignite, I feel it's really important to just share a quick snapshot of who we are and why so many organizations trust Creospark with their Microsoft journey. We were founded in 2017 and have been focused exclusively on Microsoft services since day one. That specialization and focus has helped us grow quickly and deliver consistent value to our customers. And as you can see through that short amount of time, over 750 of individual businesses across the Americas, across many industries from nonprofits to healthcare to large enterprise, have entrusted Creospark with our transformation efforts, and we really do bring that cross-sector experience to every engagement. One thing that sets us apart is we have 7 advanced specializations from Microsoft. These things are earned and not bought, and they reflect our deep technical expertise and our proven delivery models in areas like modern work, security, and Azure. Another thing that differentiates us against the competition is that over 100% of our exec team are Microsoft MVPs or alumni. And that means our leadership isn't just managing, they're hands-on experts in the weeds, recognized by Microsoft for their contributions to the broader community. Just running this out, we do have a dual headquarter in both Toronto, Ontario, and Davis, California. We're a proud North American organization, allows us to bring the ability and variability for support of our customers across multiple time zones, bringing local context and currency there. 100 years of combined transformation experience with over 120 people on our staff, over 35 technical resources, ultimately big enough to scale, but still agile and personable. You're never going to feel like another ticket in the queue working with Creospark. Just moving on to our core offerings. And so these are really aligned with the Microsoft go-to-market as they've entered fiscal 26. So that really tight integration brings benefits to all of our customers in the areas that we focused on. So the first is AI business solutions, which is really the legacy modern work. Here, we help customers unlock productivity with tools like Copilot, agentic AI, build engaging intranets and portals, modernize Collab with Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, and whether it's a full enterprise migration or just a simple digital experience refresh, we've done it time and time again for customers of your size or varied. In terms of secured cloud, security is obviously foundational. We manage endpoints, mobile devices, implement governance, risk and compliance, all while building resilient Azure infrastructure with 365, AVD, and backup solutions, all designed for business continuity. Process transformation is ultimately one of the key wheelhouses of Creospark. We help you digitize and automate with Power Platforms, D365, and of course the AI suite of products. From low-code apps to digital analytics with Power BI and Fabric, we really streamline efforts and workflows to unlock some of those insights. Lastly, to the right, we do provide continuous support. So for organizations that want to potentially rely on experts to manage that internal IT and support, we have you covered. And then any solution that we're working with through you, whether it's a migration or assessments, they can provide ongoing maintenance and support to ensure that you're covered for however long you need us there for. Now, moving on, trying to get to the meat of the content today. Just a couple of elements for housekeeping. So please feel free to add any questions or comments you have in the chat during the webinar. We do have a number of Creospark individuals there banning the chat. We'll make sure that we get the right resource responding to anything. Handouts and certificates of attendance will be sent out via email after today's webinar session. So keep an eye on the inbox for that. You'll also receive the recording and recap blog next week. And so if there's individuals within your team or other colleagues who unfortunately couldn't make it today, again, we've got them covered and they'll be able to consume the exact same content you're going to hear from us over the next 40 minutes or so. So before we really get into it, just a quick poll on Teams. We don't have any neat chatbots or polling things going, so any kind of free-form response is great. But really looking for the top priority for your organization. Oh, there we go. Our marketing team is right on the ball. Thank you, Prem, for that. And so really, as November draws to a close, it's really important to start planning for the upcoming year. And so we're really curious about what your top priorities in 2026 are as you look forward to that new year and complete those budgeting exercises or strategic meetings. Is it improving employee experience, perhaps strengthening security and compliance, accelerating AI adoption, building custom Copilot agents, or maybe we've missed the mark and there's something entirely different that we haven't thought of, and we'd love to hear your feedback there. Amazing. So why are we here today? I mean, obviously, there's a clear inflection point that was exceptionally well captured by Judson Althoff, who is the CEO of the Microsoft commercial business at Ignite earlier this week. And I'll read the quote to you because I think it makes a ton of sense and is so apropos to what we're seeing in the market today. AI marks a turning point. It's not about doing things faster. It's about doing the things that we could not do before. And I think this is really exemplified by some data and research that came out of Ignite earlier this week. Microsoft with IDC unveiled a global study of over 4,000 business leaders, revealing that 68% of companies are already deploying AI. So it's a exceptionally quick adoption rate. And those early AI adopters, and you'll hear more and more of this if you haven't heard it enough already, they're been dubbed frontier firms. And these organizations are not just using AI, they're reaping significant returns that are at least 3 times higher than those laggards or their slow adopters. These innovators, these frontier firms are leveraging AI across an average of 7 business functions. And so everybody is getting an opportunity to accelerate their business or ultimately be more effective in their day-to-day through this. And where we're seeing this is especially in financial services, healthcare, and manufacturing. Custom AI development is surging. There's projections for adoption jumping from about 58% today to 77% within the next couple of years. So a massive monumental jump in a relatively short period of time, while agentic AI use is set to triple over that same period. There's rising budgets, there's expanding teams. Organizations are obviously facing challenges from security to ethics, but the takeaway here ultimately is that AI is shaping the business landscape. Business leaders must move decisively to harness some of that potential for growth in that industry leadership. And so great timing today. Let's get on to some of these updates from Ignite. And so where we want to start first here is really just talking about an overview of the major announcements from the Ignite Tour in 2025, including advancements in AI, cloud innovations, security updates. It's clearly introduced a lot of big changes with Copilot everywhere, Work IQ, AI agents. And so we'll start with Caroline here, but really wanted to understand from you, Carolyn, what stood out for you most this week?
Yeah, well, I think just looking at that quote that we had from Judson and building on that statement, that Ignite 2025 has been about putting AI in the flow of work and not like repeating what he said. It's not just faster tasks, but smarter, more personalized experiences that reduce friction and can help unlock creativity. So I'm going to kind of be representing the viewpoint of delivery teams or people, knowledge workers, and this means focusing on adoption strategies that make Copilot part of everyday workflows, that employees can feel empowered rather than overwhelmed. And Eric's at Ignite, and I think we can look to see what kind of perspective he has beyond some of these talking points in the keynotes.
Yeah, excellent. No, I'm so happy to be here. And Carolyn said, coming here live from Ignite in San Francisco, it has been quite an experience. There are over 20,000 people here is what Microsoft is saying. I can tell you what I see. It looks like that because it is huge, lots of people. The excitement during the keynote was pretty impressive. And I got to say, I really enjoyed the keynote. Some of the keynotes I've seen over the last couple of years have been not exactly what I was hoping for. It was all AI, it was all agentic web, whatever. This one really resonated with me. And we're going to dig into a lot of this stuff. But there was like two big takeaways that I had from the keynote, which all of you could watch, by the way. I do recommend it. Maybe 1.5, 1.33, or 1.25 speed. You might want to skip a few little sections because, there's some normal filler, but it was really good. That they started out by really talking about like these two big issues that I see as well, which is that there's this fear that AI is taking over everything. And Microsoft was really clear, in my opinion, to say that's not true. Humans are humans. We're all makers. We're all there. We are driving everything here. AI is just going to help. It's just going to help us do our job. It is not taking our jobs because it can't. It's not thinking that way. And so that was one huge pillar that I think is been resonating through the entire week. The second big one is around ROI. This year, the MIT released the study. A lot of people talk about, I think it was like 95% of AI projects have not had a positive ROI. And I think that Microsoft and other tech leaders are hearing that. And so the second big thing here is how can Microsoft help us see a positive ROI, because they believe, this is my opinion, they believe in, and I definitely believe that AI is there to help us. It definitely can be a huge positive ROI, but a lot of us just aren't doing it quite right. We're not doing it yet. We just don't know how to do it, or we didn't have the tools. It was too complex. And Microsoft seems to have made a lot of efforts there to get AI into our hands in ways that make sense, to go beyond just the canned solution that they provide via something like Copilot, to turn it into some of the promises they've been making over the last couple of years. So great stuff. I really highly recommend you watching it. But yeah, let's dig into more of the stuff here. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Eric, we'll stick with you here. I mentioned at the intro a little bit about frontier firms and that transformation. And so, obviously, since July, the fiscal year changes over, we hear a lot about this every Microsoft meeting, right? And so, are you able to talk a little bit about frontier firms, what they are? Maybe is it new? Is it not? Like, what's the concept behind all of this?
Absolutely. So yeah, this is one of the things they started talking about in the keynote. And often in the keynote, they just sort of throw out these new terms that are the term of the year. So let's be fair with that. I don't know if this will be a term next year, but it's important now. And the concept is really important. So as far as I can tell, Frontier Firms was really announced on Tuesday, this idea of it. And what it is all of us that are human-led. I told you about Microsoft understanding that humans are front and center here, and they're going to be, but agent operated. Let's have agents help, and they use these words about the mundane. Let's help them. Let have agents help us do some of those repetitive tasks, or some of the tasks that don't require as much thought, but need to get done, so that we can, in fact, we humans can, in fact, provide the true value to our organization. So very interesting concept. I kind of like the terminology, but it's just, I wanted to make sure we called it out, but I also fear that, that every year Microsoft has these new terms that they come up with and new announcements, and they kind of go away. I'm feeling this is one of those that's going to be the word of the year, but I do like it. It's this idea that we need to think about the human-led but agent-operated firms that are harnessing the new AI tools that are out there to help with the automation, and use that to then help redefine the models of our organizations, so that we can then really improve some of the innovation that we can truly provide.
Amazing. And we talked about, Eric, the investment that frontier firms are making, that they're prominent, they're front and center. I think it's a great transition because these firms are clearly finding value from AI that many aren't, right? Their people can operate more efficiently, their sellers can qualify deals quicker, their HR team can run through processes much quicker. It adds a lot of efficiency. And most of the recent investments, I think, by Microsoft, as conveyed certainly during Ignite, have been successful with AI. And what are you seeing as, and Carolyn, perhaps we'll move to you, like, what are you seeing as the underlying trends that have shaped some of these recent innovations by Microsoft? And I guess more importantly, like, how can we leverage these updates to be more successful, or how can businesses and really, design their future in this new construct?
Yeah, well, I just felt like kind of like that we at Creospark have been saying some of the things that were in the first like 5 minutes of the keynote. And we can share some information. I think we are sharing some information at the end of the session, where we had done a recent webinar that tied into like why AI projects fail. And that came out like within the first 5-10 minutes of the keynote. And Judson highlighted 4 reasons why AI projects fail are misalignment between IT and business, data quality, governance, and regulatory concerns, and overemphasis on experimentation. And you can see like how you can kind of take those ideas of why things aren't going well and figure out, well, how can you go, what's another way to kind of make sure that if you do invest in AI, and you should be investing in AI, how do you make sure that your project doesn't fall into those pitfalls? So again, at the resources part, we're going to share our method to avoid some of those issues, and we have a handout that has a Copilot readiness and success scorecard. But basically, like, everyone's seeing the same issues of why projects are failing, and we need to look over at how do we kind of avoid those traps. But I'm going to hand it over to Eric to talk about Microsoft's approach from Ignite that ties in well with what we've experienced with our clients and our projects.
Yeah, absolutely. The 4 reasons they provided on why AI fails, it did resonate with me. I definitely see that misalignment. The data quality I keep hammering on. A lot of our clients are coming to us talking about SharePoint, which is where data lives for Copilot. Now they're willing to expand that. There's some cool stuff we're going to talk about on that as well. But data quality is super huge, and that overemphasis on experimentation was interesting to me, because I do believe that a lot of us still are in an experimental phase, but I do like this idea of providing the ROI on it. And so not just experiment to play with it, but experiment with purpose to say, okay, what's an actual good use case we can build? So then the way that Microsoft was conveying of the big use cases where we could actually be successful also resonated for me. And those would be to really enrich that employee experience. And what's kind of cool about this is that in the survey, a bunch of you, almost a majority, a full solid majority, said like that's one of your big goals this year is to really help improve the employee experience. When I heard that as well, it kind of resonated to me during like about the 21, 22-ish era when Viva was out, and that was what Microsoft Viva was doing, all about this employee experience stuff. So that was really interesting. But anyhow, the other big use cases they talked about were reinventing customer engagement. I look at customer engagement, client engagement, internal employee engagement. It's more than just engaging with, quote, your customer, because a lot of you don't necessarily have customers the way you would see it, but it's that engaging with the people that your organization works with internally, externally. Another really big one was the reshaping of business processes. And I think this one's going to be huge and also a challenge for a lot of us. We always are going through these digital transformations, this AI transformation now of taking our processes and seeing where agents can help it improve the speed, the productivity on that to help alleviate a lot of the processes that need to currently take a lot of human time, that they're mundane. And I don't like that word because it feels like it's not valuable. No, most organizations, you need these tasks to happen. A lot of orgs, they need those TPS reports, like they do. It just feels sometimes like, oh, yet another, but there's value in that to an organization. How can we help? How can we transform the business processes using agents and agent flows, and this idea of allowing agents to talk to agents, which again, a lot of stuff that came out here as well. And then finally, there's this idea about bending the curve of innovation, and that's another interesting one. During the keynote, they had some pretty cool these little demos, I suppose, where they did these scenarios, and in minutes they were able to kind of do this end-to-end solution. I thought that was kind of cool, and AI can really help improve that innovation. Now, in fairness, and I got to hit Microsoft on it because, Ignite is a marketing event. It is. And I think it's pretty clear to everybody. It's not really a hidden secret. But in the keynote, they did this 6-minute thing where it was like 5 minutes and 30 seconds. And they had to acquire 20,000 T-shirts for all the attendees of the keynote. And it was cute because you can't really do that in 6 minutes. But they did a lot of copy and pasting kind of stuff. But it was cute. It was a good example, a good use case that could drive home. Here's how you can use AI across all these tools to help you be able to innovate quicker and in ways you might not have thought of before. But at the heart of all that, still a human. Computers are only, AI is still only just sort of reworking words. There was this other cute line where this idea that what AI does is it uses thousands of straws of data. It has all these little fingers out there, it's straws, and it's sucking in all the data, and it's coming up with new combinations, which is a fancy word for saying guessing. And I liked that. It's like, let's be fair here. Let's be real. That AI, it's not thinking. It may look like it is, but it's not. It really is just taking all that, the threads of information that are coming in that's there, and it's using probability of what would be the next word in a response. It can look really good and sophisticated, but it still needs humans.
Yeah, I think, Eric, that's a great point, right? Like, AI is not thinking. Humans are thinking. There's obviously concern in many organizations, many individual contributors who are working for these companies, that the advent of AI will reduce their employability, reduce the hours they're working. But that doesn't sound like what's being said by Microsoft with this, right? It really seems like it's an opportunity to augment existing knowledge workers, have them be more efficient, help drive more materiality to that business, and gain greater profits. But there's really no discussion about a reduction in force.
No, I definitely agree. And I think that this is me just pontificating when I see a lot of the layoffs that have occurred. Because let's be fair there. 2025 has been pretty rough. There's been a lot of layoffs, and I get it. And then a lot of people blamed it on AI. I think that was a scapegoat. I think it was just some my personal opinion. I think a lot of it was just from the post-COVID kind of wind down. I'm not seeing people that really say, no, AI took my job in a lot of these knowledge worker locations. I think orgs just thought so. But so some of them, you saw some companies, some large Fortune 5 kind of companies who started hiring back because they realized they need people to create the agents for them and to run them. Because again, agents just can't take jobs. They're not smart enough to. In fact, you're going to probably get yourself hurt because of what it can do. We're seeing that in coding too. True production code, vibe coding's all the vibe, all the rage. And a fun little announcement here is that Copilot is getting quite some vibe coding abilities to it, which I thought was cute. Where we can create more code and kind of create applications now within Copilot. They're looking to do that. But the thing is a lot of that code is really for prototyping, and which is great. There's good value to do it. But a true production code is not there yet. You really do still need software engineers to fix a lot of the crud that is created and stuff. So fascinating stuff. But yeah, I think let's get into some of the some of the details. Like there's some really cool announcements.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think great segue. Work IQ is one of those, right? I think it's a game changer compared to Microsoft Graph. Maybe not. Carolyn, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this was one of the big announcements, this idea of work IQ. I'm going to give a little context behind it because maybe to help better frame it. So historically, Microsoft has used what they call Microsoft Graph. That has been the backbone for connecting data across Microsoft 365. So it can pull in information from your email, files, calendars and apps to make a better experience, a more personalized experience for you. And it can help make search and contextual recommendations possible. So this has been around for, I don't know, a long time, multiple years, like 6, 8, maybe even longer years. Um, and it's what enables those smart connections behind the scenes. So this idea of work IQ takes that a step further. Instead of just surfacing data, it understands context and it builds memory. That's one of the really, really game-changing things around generative AI with memory. It's not that that generative AI knows everything about you. It stores little pieces of information. So with this work IQ, it can again understand context, build memory, and uses inference to personalize the experience. So for the knowledge worker delivery team type of experience, that means Copilot can anticipate what employees need and make workflows feel effortless. So that this kind of helps make sure that the intelligence layer is adopted in a way that feels natural and secure. So again, it won't provide information to anyone who doesn't have access to it already. But I think that memory is going to be a game changer in terms of knowing who you are, what type of thing you usually interact with, what type of information is important for you in your job. But Eric, what do you think are some other impacts for work IQ?
Yeah, first of all, like I saw it, I'm like, wait, did I miss a memo or something? Because again, the keynote they announced this new thing, Work IQ, and I'm sitting going like, wow, this is interesting. And then I dug into it more, and I'm like, oh, this is just graph. And then as I thought about it, I'm like, wait a second, no, that's wrong. So Carolyn, good overview of what Work IQ is. They also announced at the same time this Work IQ with Fabric IQ with Foundry IQ, and we'll get into those in a little bit later as well. So it's another one of those new buzzwords that came out. Great. Okay, cool. So what is it? How much is it going to cost? What do we have to do to get enabled and all that kind of stuff? It's already enabled. Whatever it is, shall we say, it's already enabled in all your alt tenants. It's all that plumbing. And so I said, okay, well, let's kind of think through, is it just Graph? Because Microsoft Graph is what's been underlying Copilot for since the beginning of Copilot, the last couple of years. It's the idea that there is a technically term, it's the semantic index. There is this relationship of all of your data that you each individually have access to that is providing the additional context to Copilot. So when you put in a prompt in Copilot, Copilot's able to use the knowledge that you have access to within your tenant, and I'll provide a response. Pretty cool. So, okay, is that Work IQ? No. And Carolyn has already hit the big parts of it. There's these three kind of big things that Work IQ has: is that the data, the memory, as Carolyn highlighted, that's a big one. One of my thoughts was that's kind of scary, but it's also not to me because I want my Copilot to know who I am. I don't want to have to keep telling it how I interact, what I do. I want it to remember me. And because I do believe it already knows me anyhow. There's a history of everything I've done within Microsoft 365, and I believe I feel safe and secure that Microsoft's treating that data of me fairly and kindly because I pay them to do that. In the licensing, their company has always been based around selling me licenses, not selling who I am to other people. So I like that. But then Work IQ can then provide that inference as well. So I look at it as Graph is still there as far as I can tell. It's just the data plumbing. It's still a piece of it. Work IQ sits on top of that. And it's like this brain that goes ahead and interprets and personalizes via its memory and inference so that the data can be turned into even better action for me. So I'm excited to learn more about this. I think it's still in my head. It's still to be defined exactly what this is, and I'm not sure if this is going to be uh, a long-term thing, or it's just going to be that underlying overall plumbing that's going to work. It's not something we're necessarily going to talk about a lot. It might be a really good branding term, again, with this idea of Fabric IQ as well as Foundry IQ, which are those are huge topics. There's some really interesting ideas if we can take the knowledge that exists in these different data areas. I think, so Graph contains all of Microsoft 365 aspects, or your email, your files, your calendar, things like that. Fabric IQ is all of the data, the structured and unstructured data that you're running through data warehousing and whatnot. And this other third one around Foundry IQ, because a lot of you are building agents in Foundry, and to be able to take all of that agentic knowledge, shall I say, and provide this concept on top of it, I think it's gonna be really, really fascinating to see where that goes. And I think it's a good evolution. It's where the competitors are going, but it's what we're looking for. This is the good evolution of AI. I shouldn't have to keep telling it who I am and what I want. I just want to be able to be talking to that intern, that agent, that coworker who knows me, but is able to go and handle a lot of those. Again, I don't like the word, but I think it's a fair word, the mundane tasks, the things I need to do to go create those first drafted documents, to be able to summarize what my day looks like today and things like that.
Amazing. The incrementalism, the forward investment, all there to help really design the future. And you can see why just through the first few slides that these frontier firms are, really driving significant results over their peer companies in terms of what they're doing and adopting the technology that Microsoft is deploying. So why don't we stick with this thought? And Eric, I'll stick with you here. But Copilot licensing continues to evolve, right? We're seeing more feature-rich, units coming in. We're seeing a broader customer adoption. We're seeing more efficacy in end businesses. Are you able to talk about like what you're seeing this week at Ignite and how that's happening and what is precisely happening?
Oh yeah, it's getting better, and it's also like Microsoft. I admit it's getting a little more confusing as well. So more SKUs are being added, which Carolyn will share that shortly. But you also are getting more features in the existing SKUs. Let's just start with Copilot Chat. So Microsoft 365 Copilot, that's our retail $30 per user per month, where we get an agent, our primary agent that sits on top of our data within the Microsoft ecosystem. It's embedded in our apps. Great. Okay, well, Microsoft announced Copilot Chat, Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat earlier this year in 2025. And it's effectively a free version of Copilot. All of you have access to it with your Entra ID, with your Entra account. And it provides a lot of the really cool features of Copilot, but it's grounded on only the web, the LLMs that you use, but it's grounded on the web. So it could do a web search. And it can be grounded, or when you put a prompt in, you could provide up to like 3 different data files, like a Word doc or PowerPoint, that you might want to interact with and talk to. Great. That worked really well for many of you. And we've been seeing a lot of our clients start with that because it's free. Why not, right? The big catch is that Copilot is not grounded on your data, with the corpus of data that lives within your Microsoft 365 tenant. And further, it wasn't integrated directly into the Office apps. And value proposition, you got to pay for that. Well, nope. So Copilot Chat is now going to be integrated directly into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, which is nice. It will be able to automatically reason over those files that you are interacting with. So that's pretty cool and huge. And you can still go ahead and reference additional files. So if you wanted to build a new Word doc, you could go into Word using Copilot Chat and say, generate a draft for me based on this PowerPoint presentation. Or you could open up a PowerPoint presentation and using Copilot Chat, ask it, summarize what this presentation is all about. That's pretty cool. But let's go then. So if you're paying for things, Microsoft 365 Copilot, the $30 per user per month, Microsoft keeps adding more and more goodness into that. They're adding the security Copilot. They're basically, if you're paying that, they're dumping in all of these other Copilots for you, these more specific agents for you. We saw that with the sales Copilot over in the Dynamics world, was automatically added into the Copilot licensing. It is just getting really interesting and really good interesting. Like they're giving us more features, yet also more challenging because it's harder to determine what are all of these licenses and what's the right license for me. That being said, though, so let's go to the next one because there was a really cool announcement I want Carolyn to be able to share.
Yeah, so this was something that kind of a lot of us, when we saw the book of news come in, was kind of like, this will help a lot of our clients. So this is a new Copilot announcement. It's still basically Microsoft 365 Copilot, but it's Microsoft 365 Copilot Business. This is for people who are firms of less than 300 users. And you have to have Business Basic, Business Standard, or Business Premium, one of those license types to go with this. But it is a lower cost per month. So the regular retail Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot license is $30 per user per month, but they've adjusted this for the small business users for $21 per user per month. So this is something hopefully that a lot of clients that we work with can take advantage of now if they've been on the fence and thought that the regular Copilot was just out of their budget. And so, yeah, I think this is something that people will be very interested in.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think it's a great call out here. We're looking at about a 30% or close to decrease versus what the prior version of Copilot was, right? And this is geared towards SMBs, as Carolyn mentioned. Don't let the cost fool you or that cost savings. It can still automate everyday tasks like summarizing email or drafting documents, analyzing data, capturing meeting notes, really so teams and customers can see strategic growth, right? And I think this is a great tool for me in my day-to-day as a sales leader, right? Like I got people, sellers going on customer calls, recording a litany of notes, having to communicate internally with many different stakeholders to get our customers to the end of the job, right? And oftentimes, two different people might have three different interpretations of what actually happened. And I think the great equalizer here is that type of AI note-taking and the ability for it to cut the wheat from the chaff and really get to the brass tacks and what was actually discussed with the customer and what will drive value to those those conversations. And so a huge time savings, a huge benefit to us. And what we're seeing here, obviously, as well, is that Microsoft is continuing to democratize IT, right? With the advent of cloud, there's less need to buy titular copies of software or box products. It's clearly moved to a SaaS-based model where people can go and buy what they need and not buy bloatware or things that they don't need and things that will help grow their business. And so when you look at the cost reduction and the advent of this 365 Copilot Business for SMB, you look at the promotions that Microsoft is putting in to get customers into E3, perhaps add EMS, move them up to E5 if they're already there. Again, huge steps in the right direction to ensure that all customers, irrespective of size or vertical, can take advantage of all the security offerings, all the AI offerings, and really organize themselves to be that frontier firm as we've discussed earlier. And just transitioning off of this, Copilot Ignites obviously showed Copilot and agents working directly inside Teams channels, right? I know if I have to go through Teams, I may click it on my phone, I may miss it on my PC. It's pretty difficult, right? And so for an employee experience, Carolyn, leading technical teams and our project management, like, why do you think this is such a big deal?
Yeah, so I think that, well, we've been kind of like highlighting employee experience, but this is one example, and this kind of just Microsoft meant like their kind of framework in general. But these type of enhancements bring AI into the flow of work. So instead of switching between apps, you can stay there right in that Teams conversation and have it pull in files or pull in additional context. These agents that are in Teams channels can even set up small workflows and maybe can help schedule a meeting or something else. So like it really cuts down for you to go between multiple applications. So it turns the agent into an experience that feels natural versus using another tool. So that's another highlight of this. And if we move on, we can see another example of
Absolutely.
this with agent mode. And Ignite introduced agent mode for Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. And from a knowledge worker or delivery team perspective, it takes Copilot from being a helper to being a co-creator inside the apps that employees already use. So yes, Copilot was already there, but it's integrating it. They were kind of like a PowerPoint version of Copilot or a Word version of Copilot. And this, the chat version was more robust than some of these specific Copilots, and it's trying to make those less app specific and more useful. So I think that this is something that is just rolling out now. So we haven't played with it because you can see that frontier there. So when you see the word frontier across a feature, that's something that is being rolled out or new. But this is about adoption and trust. We need to make sure employees understand how to use these capabilities and feel confident that the experience is secure and intuitive and also accurate. But ultimately, agent mode turns Copilot into, like what I said before, into something that feels more natural versus another tool that they have to learn. So again, if people were using maybe they're using things that weren't quite approved, or like going to ChatGPT and pulling things in, that hopefully with these improvements, especially with Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, that people will just start using these tools directly in the applications.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so appropriate, right? It's agent mode turning Copilot into an experience that feels natural and not just another tool that, knowledge workers need to learn, right? There's an abundance of those. It's a great opportunity to do things a little quicker and more efficiently and spend a little less time on the front end and more time on the back end, driving value to the organization. There are a couple of tech community blogs and other type resources that we can share with everyone there. But I think this is a great facet for people to, really start to understand, right? And we mentioned this earlier through the call, just transitioning and continuing the conversation with AI agents and governance. And clearly, there's a large push to democratize Copilot with the creation of agents by everyone, right? This is not relegated to dev workshops or people who need to have a PhD in coding or computer science or anything like that. Literally anybody can do this. I mean, my children who are grade school age are doing this in their class right now, and they're sub 8th grade level. And I think all this can be great. Like you're hearing from clients, but perhaps there's a few or too many agents, right? And is there a way to safely manage it? Is there an answer from Microsoft? Carolyn, maybe look to you to talk a little bit more.
Yeah. So we've been speaking about this also in our webinars that, that everyone can be a maker now. Like anyone can create an agent, and like people probably haven't started doing that, but they will. But we've been talking about this idea of shadow AI. People have heard shadow IT term, but now there can be shadow AI. And this tool, especially this Agent 365, admin center, can allow the IT admins to see what everybody's creating and can kind of have an eye on this to make sure that people aren't doing things that would be harming the organization. So it really allows IT to manage maker agents in a centralized location. So it gives them visibility and eyes on. And probably 90% of the time, people are creating things in a way that will be useful and will be helpful, but it just kind of allows teams to IT to have oversight to make sure that people aren't going across guardrails.
Yeah, absolutely. And, while we're on the topic of agents, I want to talk about one of my most favorite ones, which is the sales development agent that's now available through the Microsoft Frontier program. And what this is here, it's a fully autonomous agent that will research or qualify, also help engage leads directly during or after business hours to drive revenue growth. And Some features include things like the agent going out, like I mentioned, to research prospects, craft those personalized outreach messages, automatically follow up at a specific interval to make sure nobody's left behind. It can scale so that agent can work independently, has the ability to be handed off and provide leads over to human sellers where that personal touch is required. It also correlates to internal security and governance frameworks, right? So all of this is built on the Microsoft Trusted Security and Compliance Foundation. That sales development agent comes ready to use with all the security, governance, and productivity tools in Agent 365 right out of the box. And for many sales leaders who have looked at tools like Gong or call recording or things of that nature that have an exorbitant cost, these types of agents are really going to reduce or eliminate the need for this. It increases efficiency and efficacy of the sales forces, allows us to run agile teams that are focused on customer success and revenue versus research and Googling things, right? I think like that element when I started my career in sales was the worst part about it all. It was difficult to go and find this stuff. And, I certainly wish I had tools like this at the start of my career. I think, there would have been a much more accelerated opportunity. And an opportunity to obviously help and assist more customers simultaneously. And so let's pivot over to SharePoint. I know, Eric, huge SharePoint guy. I know you spent a lot of your career focusing on this, and so would love to understand your perspective about the SharePoint evolution at Ignite, right? Impacting that broader Microsoft ecosystem in that business strategy. So love to hear your feedback here.
Yeah, so I found that over the last couple of Ignites, like SharePoint seemed to have been relegated to something else. And it was kind of cool to actually see that no, Microsoft, they didn't split the keynote per se, but there's still a lot of activity that's going on in the SharePoint world. So it's good to see. SharePoint really is the key data source to Copilot. It's one of the main places where our data is going to live. That continues to grow. They're building out knowledge agents for SharePoint that seems to be very similar to like SharePoint agents, which are these idea of agents already ingrained into your SharePoint data. Knowledge agents are about helping you get really metadata out of your documents so that they could then your data, so it could then be even that much better. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff around these admin agents and whatnot to help you with monitoring, maintaining, and working through keeping your SharePoint data good, clean, to be effective and whatnot. We're seeing some new licensing or like some adjustments in some of the licensing over on some of the extra features of SharePoint that was pay-as-you-go. Some of that's becoming more fixed rate. Lots happening there. Like too much to share right now. We could go on for hours more. But some really good stuff that's happening there. We're providing you the roadmap that Microsoft released. It's some really exciting stuff within the SharePoint ecosystem.
Amazing. Carolyn, we'd just love to invite you to add on to that. Thinking about practicality, what steps can organizations take to drive some adoption of SharePoint's new AI capabilities to really, I guess, again, continue to ensure that positive employee experience?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick little soundbite on this. If you want to maximize the value of Copilot and AI, investing in SharePoint modernization is key. So if you're kind of using legacy versions of SharePoint, it is beyond time to kind of look to modernize that.
Absolutely. Thanks for that. And then, just what else caught your eye here, right? I think we're rounding up. We're approaching the top of the hour. I'll pull the Jerry Springer moment, ask her if there's any final thoughts here. There's Foundry updates, there's Anthropic buys in Azure, there's Model Router, WorkIQ, Fabric IQ, Foundry IQ. Eric, let me start with you. Where do you want to land this?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So this is where there's just so much content to provide. So I want to make sure we talked about some of the other things. If these buzzwords start to hit you, you're going to want to go do some more research in the book of news. You're going to want to go watch the keynote. You're going to want to look at the sessions that you can get online for free. Massive work happening over on the Azure Foundry side. So again, this is one of those ones where, wait, did I just miss another memo? So it looks to me as though Azure AI Foundry was renamed yet again to Microsoft Foundry. Kind of makes sense to me. So that's the area where you often are building more pro code agents, and that's now evolved. Now you can go over to Microsoft Foundry and a lot more low code or no code people can be building some more sophisticated agents there than Copilot Studio could, because it's built more on the plumbing of all the agents rather than something like Copilot Studio, which is really just a nice simple front end to be able to build agents. huge things over there. Just a lot of work happening. There was a huge announcement about Anthropic. Those models are finally making their way into Azure. The Anthropic, I believe it was the CEO, came on stage, which is kind of cool because, Anthropic and Microsoft have always been, buds. And so it's really good to see that because we don't care, right? We just want access to those models. And now with all these models out there, and you see this with ChatGPT 5, that basically there's the idea of a model router because your end users don't know what models are. They don't care and which one's best or whatever. So Azure is, or Microsoft Foundry is adding the idea of a model router so that your users' prompts can get routed to the best model to be able to answer or address that response. I talked a little bit about the IQ aspect here. So Fabric IQ is this idea of kind of like work IQ on top of your semantic models that live in Fabric. That's cool. So now over in the Fabric data world, huge topic. You're doing all this data manipulation, but at the end of that, you're typically building a semantic model that could then be used by other systems or by something like Power BI. Well, Fabric IQ sits on top of that, and again, can provide that reasoning on top of your data. Oh my gosh, huge ask. Really looking forward to seeing some progress here in 2026, and a lot of you starting to use this. Foundry IQ, we mentioned on again, so Microsoft Foundry and IQ on top of that. So you have all these agents that you might be building that have something. There's a reasoning engine on top of that, a brain on top of that can help. Azure Copilot, huge for Azure folks. So you've got this huge Azure infrastructure, and you need to be able to say, hey, look, I need to update it and modernize it. How should I do it? Instead of doing it all by your own labor, you can now look at using Azure Copilot to help you. Hey, here's this large resource group that I have. I need to modernize it. What should I do? That's super cool. Security Copilot agents was another really big one. I mean, there's a lot going on here beyond our typical spot where around is around like, Microsoft 365, the Power Platform, and data. There's some really cool stuff that you don't want to miss. With this though, so I'm here tonight. I told you all this. I got to run. I got some commitments I have to make. I'm drinking from that metaphorical fire hose. So I'm going to hand it, Jeff and Carolyn. I know you got plenty and more to add and some fun stuff, but I want to thank you all for joining. At least when I could join, it's always excited to be here. Looking forward to 2026. But yeah, with that, I'll hand it over to you, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody, too.
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Thanks,
the
Eric.
only thing that I wanted to add onto this slide was that the security Copilot agents, and again, this is just kind of announced. We don't know exactly what it covers, but that's going to be included with E5 licensing. So another reason that that just like they keep improving the amount of security and compliance enhancements with E5 licensing. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Carolyn. Man, this was a quick hour. It's hard to believe we're almost at the top. Well, Eric had to leave, though. I'm glad we still have everybody here for the next handful of moments, right? And so, really just some closing thoughts. And Carolyn, like, I'm happy to take this unless you want to. Totally up to you.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, obviously, we're as you heard from both Carolyn and Eric earlier today, we're clearly entering that new era where AI is really amplifying that human ingenuity, empowering every organization to achieve more, and transforming the way that we work, create, and connect. And through Ignite 2025, it's shown us that AI is no longer a future vision. It's here, it's now, it's a present reality. And the organizations that thrive will be the ones that harness Copilot agents, intelligent platforms to empower their people and transform their business, right? It just goes back to that frontier partner discussion at the front end of this session today, and that, those organizations that are early and quick adopters are finding, tangible and real time savings and monetary savings through their business endeavors, focusing on human ingenuity, right? And we talk that AI isn't, here to replace people's jobs. Far from it. It's here to augment that. And the human, spirit, the human creativity, ingenuity is ultimately irreplaceable. And, as we move forward, the focus is going to be on solutions that make work more meaningful, more secure, and more productive for everybody, irrespective of the role that you're in. But make no mistake, right? There is change. Change is here, and we all need to prepare for that, right? Moore's Law we heard in the early 80s to 90s, and that 18-month doubling has been never more appropriate than today, right? And that pace of innovation continues to accelerate. now is the time to invest in learning, change management, and governance, so you can take advantage of this new foray into technology and ensure that your teams can confidently adopt new tools and new workflows. Finally here, staying curious and connected, right? Like there's sessions, Eric's working for that metaphorical fire hose. Our teams from a technical, a delivery, a sales perspective are continuously learning. And, we would certainly recommend that to any organization here, right? Keep exploring, sharing, learning together. The Ignite community collectively is all here to help navigate what's next. And so let's continue that conversation and really ensure that we're at the forefront of ensuring the future of work. Amazing. So we've covered a lot today. Just want to take a pause and see if there's any questions in the chat. Feel free to drop them in the Q&A. I know we only have about 5 minutes left, so we'll address as many as we can. And aside from that, if we can't get to that, we'll ensure that we respond in kind, following up from this session today. Do a quick pause. See some typing. Not sure if it's going to formulate a question.
I think it's all of our resources.
It's that's great, fantastic. So, some chat elements in the chat in terms of booking consultation, how to get a hold of your Creospark, sales reps or other people who can help assist you with some of the items that we talked today. If it's continued discussion and dialogue, if it's discovery, we can help you from point A to point B. Lastly, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Thank you for taking time out of your day, and also thank you to our panelists, Eric Overfield and Carolyn Jurdy. Really insightful presentation today, and super happy you're all able to make it. And so what I'm put up here today is a QR code. Next week, any participant who joined us today will receive the presentation slides, the video, and a blog with the recap email. Also, your feedback is incredibly valuable and important to us. We mentioned earlier that this is the last webinar series of the 2025 calendar for Creospark. We look forward to launching the series again in 2026. But ultimately, it's your feedback to help us improve these webinars and create quality content for everybody here. QR code, I should have mentioned at the start, but hopefully you've all gathered. It's probably not the first time you've seen these. This is a quick survey for any individual who scans that with their phone or whatever device you have. Fill in that survey. You will be entered in a draw for a $50 Amazon gift card. That announcement for the winner will be put out when we send out all the collateral following this session today. So I'll leave that there for another few seconds or so in case the phone is a little bit away from you and you want to grab a scan. But again, your feedback is really important, helps us steer and organize content for future sessions.
Well, I just want to say thanks, everyone, and thank you, Jeff, for hosting. And it was really from a presenter's standpoint, it was really great to kind of take a look at all of the announcements from Ignite and start to figure out what is valuable to our clients and to our business personally here at Creospark. So hopefully everyone enjoyed it, and thanks again.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today, and look forward to working with all of you who viewed this today and helping you achieve that frontier status. Until next time, thank you again for joining us. Thank you again to our presenters, and have a great rest of your day wherever you are. Goodbye.
Bye.